Welcome to Making Waves, the podcast where we spotlight real projects at Kleinschmidt and the people who bring them to life. I'm Ben Carey, and in each episode, we go behind the scenes of a project, the challenges, the innovations, and the human stories that bring them to life. Today's guest is Ambroise Percheron, a senior project manager and hydraulic engineer at Kleinschmidt, who's in our Winnipeg, Manitoba office. And we'll be talking about a spillway replacement project, which is a really cool project. I've had a chance to preview it a little bit with Ambrose, and I think it does a great job of highlighting the multidisciplinary nature of some of the large hydro projects that we work on here at Kleinschmidt. So let's dive in and make some waves. Welcome, Ambrose. To start us off, I have to ask you, have you ever been on a podcast before?
Hey, Ben, I have not. So it's a first for me. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to bring so many people on to this type of forum that haven't experienced it before. I'm really looking forward to having the conversation with you today. Before we get going, I just want to ask you a little bit about what your role is at Kleinschmidt and how you ended up kind of working or getting into the hydropower industry as a whole.
Yeah, so my role at Kleinschmidt is a senior project manager in the operations group. I joined Kleinschmidt in 2025. And prior to that, I spent about 18-ish years in consulting. And how I got into hydro was, so maybe going back a second, my focus really is on project execution here and client relationships. And I focus on mostly hydrotechnical projects, some dam safety projects, as well as fish passage. So that's really kind of the three focus areas of my current work. I really got into hydro straight out of university.
Oh, wow.
That was directly from university to hydro in the consulting world, and that's what I've done for most of my career.
Wow, that's pretty unique. I know a lot of people kind of end up in hydro through different tangents and paths. So it's cool to hear from somebody that really started off their career in that role. For somebody who has your job, Ambrose, what is your kind of a high level description of your day to day? What does that look like?
It's a combination of project management, keeping up with the projects, coordination with the various teams that we have. We have several projects across Canada at the same time, so not necessarily all the same team members are on the same project. So there's a fair bit of coordinations there, coordinations with the clients as well. I also do on a day-to-day basis a lot of business development, proposal preparation, whether it's a support or kind of leading the charge on some proposals. But I also enjoy doing some technical work on the side. Fortunately, here I'm able to focus on the projects that really interest me. So anything that has a bit of hydraulic in it, fish passage in it, I try to still kind of remain involved as much as I can on a technical basis because they're fun.
Yeah. Speaking of fun, what would you say you enjoy most about the work that you do here at Kleinschmidt?
Well, I got exposed to a number of people in various disciplines that makes it fun. It's definitely a new learning experience. After so many years in consulting, I thought I knew some stuff and meeting new people, different ways of doing things, new areas. All those things are new learning opportunities that I think were very fun. And through that process, learning about new people, like meeting new people, you, Chris, and I could name so many other people that really have been part of the fun here at Kleinschmidt.
Yeah, that's one of the things it's kind of a double-edged sword a little bit in consulting because obviously you have individuals that you worked with that end up going and doing something else or working for a different company, and that's always a little bit sad and disappointing. But the flip side is you constantly are being introduced to new coworkers that have different experiences that work in different areas of the world, and it's just such a cool way to continue learning and being exposed to new things. So I love that part about both Kleinschmidt and just consulting in general. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's transition to do some rapid fire here. So keep you on your toes. Just a couple of informal questions here. If you had to choose between working in a comfy office chair for the day or being in work boots out in the field, which would you prefer?
Work boots, no
Okay.
question about it. Yeah, it's easy. That's easy question.
Follow up to that, what's your favorite site visit you've ever been to?
Oh, ooh, good one. I think there's a couple that come to mind. One was a site visit for a fish passage project up in Churchill, Manitoba. That was a fun one because we were right in the middle of polar bear season, and
Okay.
Churchill is known for polar bear excursions. And we were fortunate to see a few during the trip. So that was kind of a good, nice, that was a good job and a great fun memories of that. And then another one, because I have to bring this one up, was a trip that was done for a client in Saskatchewan looking at new potential hydro sites. And um, with the team, we traveled, I think, by any possible means, whether it was boat, floatplane, helicopter, smaller planes, anything, to go all the way up to the border with the Northwest Territories, and yeah, had some very good experience there along small rivers and lost in the middle of nowhere. That was fun trips. Fun
That's
trips.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What about beverage wise? Are you a coffee guy before work, or would you prefer to have a cold beverage after work? And you can't say both. People always try to say both here. You got to pick one.
If you had asked me that 10 years ago, I probably would have said the cold beverage, but I think now I would go with coffee first thing.
Fair, fair. I think I'm beginning to make that transition as well. So I understand where you're coming from. What about this? Would you rather live without electricity or without shoes?
Oh man. Um, Probably without electricity for a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah. I'm saying in Canada where you're at, it'd be hard to go without shoes, especially during the winter time, right?
Yeah, yeah, you wouldn't do much without shoes. It gets pretty cold up here, that's for sure.
And then last one, cats or dogs?
Oh, dogs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're 6 for 6 on dogs, so we're gonna have to
Oh,
find
yeah.
some cat. We're gonna have to find some cat people to bring onto the podcast
Yes.
at some point. But all right, very good. Well, let's transition to talking about the project that you wanted to highlight today. Give us the big picture. What was this spillway replacement project all about? Kind of a high level summary in like 1 minute.
Yeah, that was one of the first projects I worked on as a young engineer, and I, wanted to bring up this project because I think it helped me or shaped me as an engineer for the rest of my career. Big picture, this is a spillway replacement project that was completed on a pretty old hydro station on one of the major rivers here in Manitoba. The station was over 100 years old and required a full spillway replacement to meet the current design standards. Hydraulic capacity was deficient at the time and had to be upgraded by or increased, I guess, by up to 70%, I think, from memory. So a pretty significant increase in discharge capacity required. So I came in as a young engineer during the design phase, and then I was able to remain engaged throughout the full project all the way to construction and the initial um, operation of that spillway. So yeah, that was pretty significant milestone at the time.
Yeah. Was the project initiated just as part of the natural life cycle of the spillway, or was it in response to, an emergency or something that broke down? What was the impetus for it?
No, I think it was just time. There was some significant, you know, structural issues, and it was old. Just needed to be upgraded and brought up to current dam safety standards.
Yeah. What about stakeholders and key partners? Obviously, with these types of projects in the US, typically we have, FERC that's going to be involved, if it's privately owned, and then there's other agencies or stakeholders that might get involved. What does a spillway replacement project look like in Canada in terms of those key partners and stakeholders?
Yeah, I mean it varies, but at a high level, I think first and foremost, depending on the location, indigenous partners are always nowadays part of the discussion.
Hmm.
There are also other regulatory agencies, whether it's at a provincial level or at a federal level, that also have to be engaged and consulted and yeah, be part of
Gotcha.
that whole decision process.
Yeah. And how long were you working on this project from the time you started till you were done?
Oh, I probably worked on this for the, I would say, not constantly, but I
Sure.
was, on that job for, I would say maybe 10 years or so.
Wow. Okay. And was
You know,
was that through construction?
yeah, yeah, I was also engaged part of the as a support during construction. There's always little things that come up, and that's really I started it right after university. One of the first jobs I worked on initially was to provide some support for the hydraulic modeling.
Hmm.
That was kind of my background, 2D modeling. I got exposed at the time for the first time with 3D or CFD modeling,
Okay.
which was kind of early, in the 2007-ish was
Yeah.
early stages of 3D modeling. So that was good. And it was really to support two things. One was the design of the new spillway, but the other part was to support some of the environmental studies that were completed. And that was directly linked to some of the permitting requirements as well. And I think that's where I realized two things. One is the importance of the um, collaboration between multidisciplinary teams. Obviously, this was a fairly significant project, and as a hydraulic, I was exposed to other engineers in all disciplines, geotech, structural, and yeah, any mechanical, electrical, the whole suite of engineering was really involved. So the coordination was something that really I was able to witness firsthand, and the importance of that. And maybe nowadays I look back and say, well, maybe that's why I end up where I'm at now. And then the other piece was the importance of the collaboration between the engineers and the biologists.
Mm.
That was it, probably even one of the main takeaways, or if not the main takeaway that I continue to um, make sure we implement here, especially when we work on projects that involved whether it's fish passage or aquatic habitat. Make sure that we always have a biologist on the team. That really, I found that to be completely very invaluable, and that's one of my main focus when we start a project is to make sure we have a good biologist on board right from the start, and we engage them and we work collaboratively with them because they know better.
Yeah. No, that's great perspective, and I'm glad you brought up the fact or the role that you had on the project at the beginning. That it wasn't just on the spillway design side, but it was also on evaluating some of the environmental aspects of that project, probably both upstream and downstream of the project as well. And that's for me one of the really cool things about hydro, and maybe what people don't realize is when you take on something like a spillway replacement project, you're not just replacing the spillway and doing the analysis for that, right? You're looking at upstream impacts to the reservoir, you're looking at downstream impacts to the reach, and obviously to species that may be impacted, to stakeholder or property owners that might be impacted. The scale of these hydro projects is obviously very significant. But that also makes the analysis very interesting because you're not looking at it just through one lens. You're looking at it through multiple lenses, which sometimes require multiple tools. Like you mentioned, sometimes it'll be multiple models even that are covering the same general area, but they're being focused or directed towards a particular goal of that project. And we might circle back and talk a little bit more about that later on. But I just thought I'd highlight that because I thought it was a shared reality that I really enjoy about working on these bigger hydro projects as well.
Right.
What about challenges and problem solving? Obviously, every project has its challenges. When you reflect back on this project, what were some of the biggest ones that you remember that you faced?
Well, I guess some of those challenges were personal challenges because I was so green. It just looking at well, first it's a new environment, right, in consulting and using new tools and new like that are applicable and required in a concrete project. So that was some personal challenges that I had to work through, and I think that's part of anyone's growth as an engineer to find a way to address those challenges as we develop. On the technical side, I mean, there was a number, the which I think are relevant to any spillway replacement project. To these days, I think all the spillway projects that I've worked, that's one of the main component is the care of water during construction. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you handle the water?
Sure.
Most of the time on multi-year projects. So what do you do during that time, and how do you handle the water that will come your way at some point in the spring? Mm-hmm. For sure. When it's snow melt, you got to be ready for potential event that will come your way. The magnitude is unknown, but something will come down. Mm-hmm. And then also, nowadays we have more frequent and more intense summer events that I think have to be considered in the water management plan during construction of these type of structures.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In regards to water management, did the team ever have to kind of rethink their approach or kind of change what you all were doing regarding water management, or did you feel like you were able to come up with a plan at the beginning of the project, execute that plan, and there weren't any big deviations that were needed to be made?
No, there were some significant changes that happened as more state team members got on board, contractors got on board, and things like that. No, there was definitely some, I would say, pretty significant adjustments that had to be made. And I think it's pretty common to any design or construction of these type of structures. You need to be reactive to the new things that or the new information that becomes available as the design progresses. I think that's as the design gets refined, more data is available, more field investigations are completed, and that helps kind of narrow things down and converge towards the best solution for construction. So yeah, things have that Spillway has moved a few times along the lifetime of the project, but eventually he now sits at the right location. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. You mentioned the fact that you were using CFD modeling, which was a little bit of a newer technology back in 2007. I guess what software was that, and were there particular challenges with I guess the learning curve for that, or did you have some good mentorship on incorporating that into the project?
Yeah, at the time it was still Flow 3D. The mentorship was there, and I think the approach that was taken, which I think was quite good, and whenever I get the chance, I try to do that for newer engineers that may be exposed to CFD, was to start small and not go straight from, okay, let's build a full 3D model of a massive area, including some complicated geometries and structures. It was starting with first, well, maybe let's process some data of simulations that are already existing, just to get familiar with the interface, and which at the time was not as good as what the program the what the program is capable of doing now. There's been some significant improvements over the years, but starting small, starting with processing of the results, running some simulations with set parameters and things that are preset, and over time, then, and as a modeler, or as I was becoming more comfortable with the software and the hydraulics in general, I think was able to refine things and push things, I guess, a little bit further in terms of refinement of the models, or troubleshoot the issues when they come up. The computer that we had at the time, boy, I really start to sound like an old man. The computer we had at the time took, they were definitely not as efficient as what we have now.
Sure.
So that has a significant impact on what you may expect of your simulations in terms of resolutions and expectations, I guess, from a performance standpoint. So it's all those things. It's kind of fun looking back at how things were and how things are now, and I talk to your team, and you have several licenses and several computers on the go, and a number of highly competent, more junior staff, ready to run anything. It's very impressive.
Yeah. Speaking of another, I guess, follow up as I'm thinking through this, one of the big changes that I guess the adoption of CFD modeling in hydro over the last decade has really changed is the use of physical modeling for these types of design projects. They used to be a lot more prevalent, and now with CFD, in some cases there might not be as much need for that. Do you know if there was ever considerations of doing a physical model for the spillway replacement, or was CFD kind of always the tool that you were going to lean on for that side of the analysis?
So that's funny you asked that, and we didn't rehearse that. So it's funny you asked, because there was actually a physical model that was prepared for this project. And I've seen that a few times on other spillway projects where the 3D modeling was done concurrently or in conjunction or as a support to the physical model. I think the physical model brings a lot of value and information that may not be readily available from the CFD model. So physical model was completed and provided a lot of good information, actually.
Okay. Did you have a chance to interact with that physical model or see it in person?
Yeah. This is not something that was done by my employer at the time. It was done by another consultant.
Okay.
But I was involved in some of the kind of coordination with the CFD or the hydraulics, and you always, when you do this type of combined effort, you always use one to inform the other, whether it's to help with some boundary conditions setup or some other. It's important to have those two integrated and not work in silo.
Yeah, sure.
Because once the physical model is completed and dismantled, you can't go back and rerun anything with it.
Sure.
So all you have left is the CFD model.
Yeah. The way I look at it is the CFD model is so much better equipped to handle multiple iterations, trying to refine a design or maybe looking at different alternatives versus a physical model is, going to maybe give you confidence that whatever your selected design is going to produce the results that the model is telling you, right? It's kind of like a level of redundancy in that way. So it's cool to hear that you used both of those tools on that type of project. Last question in terms of, I guess, challenges and problem solving here. You mentioned kind of your appreciation for having, biologists or other scientists on the team when it came to the design. Um, do you remember anything specific about how their input from the science or the biology side of things impacted or affected the design?
Well, there were a number of things, and I was not exposed at the time to everything, so I can only speak about my
Sure.
direct exposure with them, which was at the time some of the model results were used in a habitat suitability study. So, it's taking depth and velocities, and there are certain key periods that are representative of specific key either life stage or seasons for the fish of interest, and then use those parameters in conjunction with what the preference are for those species of fish, and identify the impact of those projects, or this project in this case, downstream on those parameters. So how does the project affect the key parameters for the life stages of those fish that are in the zone of influence of the project? So, the biologists come in and they bring that site-specific local knowledge in addition to the knowledge that is specific to the species of interest, and say, those fish in this particular period prefers these type of flow conditions, this type of substrate of depth, and we want to make sure that we maintain the conditions that are the most suitable for them, whether it's for spawning, for rearing, for adults, or that kind of stuff. So, it was a very integrated effort. And I mean, some of the biologists that I work with at the time, I still work with them these days. So I think the trust between the biologists, the scientists, and the engineers is very important. And yeah, I'm a huge proponent of those team efforts.
Very cool. What about the people side of this project? You mentioned the fact that this project occurred, early on in your career. I'm assuming that there was some mentoring that occurred on the project. When you reflect back on it, what made the project special from kind of the people side of things?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, there were a lot of mentors along the way. That's what shaped me as an engineer, and got me to where I'm at today. So numerous mentors in all disciplines, a few key ones, absolutely, for sure, that helped me grow along the way. So I think that's the one of the benefits of those large projects is, someone can be exposed to first a lot of disciplines, a wide range of experiences, sometimes other consultants, stakeholders, on the owner side as well. Not just learning from the direct mentors, but also from all the various the different players that sit at the table. I think there's always something to learn from everybody, and yeah, it was very rare to come out of a meeting with those multidisciplinary team where there wasn't like a huge nugget that of information or knowledge that I kept with me.
Very cool. Is there a moment or maybe a story from the project that really sticks with you to this day?
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't know if it was like a particular meeting that you remember, a big aha moment, or maybe delivering some final results, or seeing the actual project come together and be built. Anything stand out?
No, not really. I mean, I'm sure there were lots, and it's been a number of years now. So I think, yeah, maybe when was that? So that project was completed, let's say, at least 10 years ago, and 2 or 3 years ago, there was a pretty significant flood event on the system, and I think everything performed really well. So no, that's kind of obviously I'm not taking any credit for that. There was like a huge team, and I was just a small little piece of the puzzle here, and just contributed to whatever I could at the time. But it's nice to see that something down the road kind of functions as it intended. That's maybe one thing that is sometimes frustrating with the big spillway replacement projects from a hydraulic point of view. So I'm really looking at from my own perspective, is we design for events that are somewhat on the let's say infrequent side of things. We're talking about some PMF events, or more rare events. So the chances to see that structure being operated to its full capacity during our lifetime or career, is the likelihood of that is pretty low.
Sure.
So that's kind of one of the maybe the downside of the work that we do, is we prepare for the worst, and we hope that we don't see the worst. It's really a different, I guess, aspect compared to, let's say, the fish passage projects, where you design a fish passage project, and or whether it's a fishway or anything, and if what you've designed doesn't work, you'll know the following year, like first year of operation, if that doesn't work, you'll know it, because that's the expectation. So it's tested within the first few months of construction, compared to a spillway, which might be a few years down the road, if at all.
Sure. I don't know if there had been any large flood events in that area of Canada since the spill was completed, but as far as you know, have there been any large flood events? And did you ever kind of look into how the spillway performed during those?
Yeah, so that was about just a few years ago. Significant flood event. I didn't go as far as looking into the frequency and
Sure.
how things performed, but it was, for all I know, it was a kind of a non-event at that structure, just because things were implemented. It would have been more challenges with the old structure in place. That's for sure, and that's a good thing. I think that's what we're trying to solve here as consultants in the hydro industry, is just to find ways to help the owners deal with those events, and ensure that we make or the designs that we come up with make their life easier.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. All right, we're going to transition to the last topic here, and that's just kind of lessons and advice. So again, thinking back on the project, what did this project teach you that others, in the hydro industry, you think could learn from?
Yeah, and I think it's looking back at what we're just saying, between the importance of multidisciplinary teams on those projects, not just hydraulics, but everything else that is involved. I think that was a huge takeaway, and I obviously got me where I'm at today in my career, just helping with this aspect, like coordinating those teams. And going back to the biology engineer teamwork, go from the big multidisciplinary to the the partnership almost at that point between engineer, biologist, or scientist. Huge takeaway, and yeah, I don't think I would ever do a project that has some aquatic component without a biologist by my side.
Yeah. And then I guess transitioning from looking back to looking forward, thinking about the hydro industry as a whole and the fact that you obviously still work in it, is there anything that really excites you about the future of hydropower as a whole?
Yeah, I think whether it's new hydro projects or rehab of older infrastructure or decommissioning of infrastructure, I think there's a lot going on, that's for sure. On the fish passage side of things, obviously there's also some new requirements and maybe a desire to do things better in certain areas. So that personally excites me because those are fun projects. I think, and there's definitely a huge opportunity for more collaborations with First Nations and Indigenous groups.
Yeah.
And being involved in those projects. So a lot of potential reasons to be excited as a consultant here in the hydro industry.
Very good. Well, Ambroise, thank you so much for sharing the story behind the spillway replacement project and the work that you did and all the lessons that you took away from that. Thanks to our listeners for tuning in to Making Waves. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and share it with a colleague or a client. And yeah, join us next time as we continue to highlight the projects and the people that make Kleinschmidt so special. Any parting words, Ambroise?
No, thanks. That was fun. Glad I got you on my first podcast here and called me for the next one.
Well, you did a great job. I'm sure everybody enjoyed listening to this episode. And yeah, maybe we'll have to have you back on to discuss a new project that you take on here at Kleinschmidt. So thanks again for joining, everybody. And until next time.